Hi there. The title of our session today is Collaboration Between the UK and China. I'm Stephen Maher. I'm the CEO of MBA, Digital Marketing Agency, one of the world's leading independent agencies working with clients such as the Royal Mail and Interflora, but also working over many years with Asia and particularly with China with clients such as Embraer, Executive Jets and the Cambridge University promoting their exams out there. And I've always had a particular fascination and excitement with China, and I get a real shot in the arm when I go out there. I sort of see the future, and I'm really hoping to get out there again soon when I'm allowed to. I'm here with a very illustrious panel today of fantastic practitioners who I'm now going to just go around and introduce. So first of all, I have Julie Cohen. Julie is an American who came to Europe many years ago, and she set up a fantastic agency called Across the Pond. Across the Pond is a film content agency that works for the likes of Google and Rosewood Hotels, and she's going to tell us more about that later, no doubt. We also have with us today Can Ning. Can is the business director of VCCP, the Global Agency Network. She's originally from Hong Kong, but like Julie, she's also based in London. And VCCP works with all sorts of brands such as Telefonica and Domino's, but is working now with Shell out in China. Lastly, we have Marco Frigatti, and Marco is the Senior Vice President of Guinness World Records. Guinness World Records is a brand consultancy that works on behalf of brands to basically activate their record-breaking activities, and he does that across Asia and the Middle East. And Marco, as you can probably imagine, is an Italian, but he's actually based out in Beijing. So we have three of us in London today, and we have Marco out in Beijing, and I'm the boring Brit, born in Britain, who is still in Britain. Everyone else is much more exotic and exciting than me. But importantly, what are we? We are the UK AEG. What is the UK AEG? Well, essentially, that is the UK Advertising Export Group. It works with the UK government to work very hard to promote British creativity and capabilities and marketing services around the world. The UK is undoubtedly the world's leading hub for marketing, communications and advertising. Wins more Cannes Lions than any other European country, and it is the most advanced digital market in the world. But the UK AEG and working with the UK government has also worked very closely, particularly with China over many years. It's a particular focus of ours. We work closely with the Shanghai International Advertising Festival. We've worked with all sorts of organizations and collaborated quite extensively out there. At Creative Tech this week, we have a booth in conjunction with the Department of International Trade and the Shanghai International Advertising Festival. We have various Chinese companies that joined us here. We've got a meeting coming up with the Chinese Advertising Association. So UKAG is very much a partner and linked in to the Chinese scene. So that's us. That's what we represent. We're the UKAG, as I say, a hand-picked group of agencies forming this consortium to represent the UK industry. So let me now move across to our panel and let me sort of ask a few questions to bring to life a little bit more about what it is that we do and the opportunities that exist for us between the UK and China in collaboration. So I'm going to start with Julie, and one of the things that would be interesting to know, Julie, from your perspective is, is there an example that you could give us of how this collaboration has particularly worked for you between the UK and China? Maybe there's a particular case you can give me to showcase that.
Sure. So we do work a lot with Google, and sometimes that ends up in being introduced to Chinese brands that are working together with Google. And when they look to market in the West, they need help. And so we end up being a good candidate for that, knowing YouTube as a platform and the others that they're unfamiliar with. So Xiaomi is the example I'll give you, because it's one of our favorite clients in China. And the most recent thing we did was launching the Mi 10 mobile phone in Western Europe. And
Right.
what's interesting about it is they understand that they need to rely on our Western sensibilities to do something very different. whereas normally they might do, CGI of a model on the screen and talk about the product features. And we're obviously pushing a lot more sustainable brand building, kind of connecting to the human interaction and benefit. So in doing this, and also they're competing in this market with the likes of Apple and Samsung, and so we really wanted to help them stand out. So the creative we proposed was a really fun animation, which is really different for them in this category, and they did go for it, and it was really successful. So it stood out, and we had really good success, and that was good because it was right at the beginning of the crisis here in the West. So it was excellent. But what was really interesting about it was that all along, trust. In order for them to be able to buy into this idea, we have to have trust, and we all know that it's different to get working with Chinese.
Right.
And they know it's different working with us, and we know the relationship where the guanxi, that how highly regarded this word is. But trust has been it's a journey, and in order to get there, we sorry, Stephen, you want to say something?
No, I was just going to say, Julie, how did you find that, in terms of UK AEG and particularly the Shanghai International Advertising Festival, in what way did that sort of help you on this journey?
Well, we went to Shia before.
Yeah, right.
That was an amazing experience, actually, because knowing what we know from a distance is one thing, and then being there is another. And like I was just saying, the relationship thing, we have a different regard for networking in the West, and when you go there and sit with people, it really means something. So I think those relationships really stand.
Yeah.
So and being in that festival, also listening to their marketing issues and what they're talking about, and it was really enlightening. So what I was really fascinated about was the openness. It was,
right.
I couldn't have known that before going, but I mean, advertising is relatively new in China, and how open they were and receptive to learning from us and talking to us and collaborating.
Yes, I've noticed exactly that. It's great, isn't it? Because there's a real kind of willingness to learn and share and collaborate, but it's exciting. That's the thing. It's like you get a real, as I said earlier on, you see the future. There's a lot of opportunity, and there's a real willingness to do something together. That's brilliant. And Can, what about from your perspective? What's a good example for you of how you found this collaboration working particularly well between the UK and China?
Thanks, Stephen. It's good to hear what Julie says. It's actually very similar from my experience because personally,
Right.
I worked both markets. So actually, I truly really know the differences between them, the two, UK and China, and also I really know why, and sometimes I can see that. Obviously, VCCP, we are the largest independent agency in the world, but our newest office is in China. Of course, we're doing work in China before, but we finally officially incorporated this year. What's really interesting is probably our only office at the moment is open that people can walk in and work there. So yes, because one of our biggest global and China client is Shell. So Shell in China, I think just like all the other big international brands, one of their biggest challenges is that global, local, how can they work seamlessly together, make things work and consistent. So
Right.
in order to do that, they always say, oh, China is their biggest market, even though we do work for them in 16 markets, the four big hubs, New York, China, Singapore, and London. But they say China is complex. How do we do it? So a good example is one of the heavy-duty engine oil brand, Formula under Shell. So about a year ago, we actually launched a campaign for them. It's a product campaign for China only. But what's interesting is our global and local team work together, same as our clients, to develop the strategy together with local insights from China, from our team, our teammates, and the support from them, work out the global strategy and the creative direction idea, and work together and execute locally. And it's such true piece of work to demonstrate UK-China collaboration.
Brilliant.
And really preciously is that the local and global clients both love it because we bring local insight. It's culturally relevant to their audience. I think that's a very good example.
Yeah, that's a great example where you kind of bridge the two, as you say, at a horizontal level, that sort of global sort of creativity that we know that the UK is particularly strong on, but at the same time is that local intelligence that you've got there, which is a great example. And again, if you take, the work that we've done at UKAG or SHIAF, as Julie was talking about, I mean, have these been helpful in terms of the development of those relationships?
Oh, absolutely.
If you can, yeah.
Yeah, so I think there are two main things that I can share based on my experience. So I think everybody in the whole world know that UK is a powerhouse of creativity.
Right.
But, because of
Yes, we'd agree with that. Yep.
Well, I can see that it's true. So, but it does have a lot to share and to give. But for example, China is quite new to the advertising, to be honest, the industry compared to the UK. But with the platforms that people there get to really see the work,
right,
see the capabilities, and see people who's making the work, basically us. It's so important. And for the agencies in the UK, for example, it's such a great platform to show our face, to explain how we work and the value of it. And as Julie just mentioned, China is all about guanxi relationship, right? We all know that.
Very
so
true.
So being able to be there and make connections, shake hands, exchange WeChats, exchange business cards. It's just in person, the connection is different. And also you get to talk to people and they look at you, they hear you out, and they actually approach us a lot. So quick thing, I'm going to make it short, very honored that we are invited last year to China, Shanghai International Advertising Festival and Cannes Lions. My colleague Julian Douglas and myself, we gave speeches on the stage. So after that, and we won an award in Shanghai International Advertising Festival as the only foreign agency. It really gives us the motivation and confidence to set up our office, and we did it. So after the speeches, people just approached us and talked to us and just very complimentary, telling us the problems, and we made very good contacts and very useful potential opportunities too. So that's very valuable.
That's really good. No, it's fantastic. These missions, these organisations that we've done in the past, as we know, have been fantastic in terms of making those connections and highly professional connections at the top level with the organisations and the UK government, which has been fantastic. Marco, can I come to you now? You're in a sense in a slightly different position in that you are, unlike us in London, you're actually there in market in Beijing, and obviously working with a lot of organisations around Asia and the Middle East and various other parts of the area. Can you give us your perspective about what it is that you found that's worked particularly well for you, and maybe a sense of maybe some of the barriers as well that have come up in terms of successful working in China?
Yes, thank you, Stephen. So as you said, we are based in China. We've been opening an office 12 years ago in Beijing, and all of our clients are Chinese or foreign brands operating in China. I'm just thinking that the market has changed so much since the beginning of the year. I just want to tell you a little bit about a case that we had last week. It's about Haier, one of the biggest home appliances giants in China. And in this case, they wanted to refuel their sales right during the period of recovery, which we are experiencing at the moment. And they wanted to do it as a warm-up campaign for their 18th of June e-shopping festival, which is a big appointment for all big brands here in China, as you guys know. So, of course, a lot of focus has been placed on doing things online recently. So since the beginning of the year, Guinness for Records has gone online, and we have revamped a lot of ideas, and we have a lot of ideas on how records can be broken online. So we talked to them about doing the largest online unboxing of a product. What they did was they've recruited people from over 500 cities working in their shops, their distribution channels, and also their vendors and retailers and partners. And they've asked them to actually do an unboxing exercise all together simultaneously on Zoom at the same time. So you had over 2,000 people unboxing, but also kind of talking about the parts. One of their major key messages is about the quality of the components. And they were able to kind of describe the components, put them together. There was an assembly part. They also assembled the part that nobody thinks about, which is the one that goes actually outdoor. And it's the one that actually all these shops have to explain really well to the possible purchasers. So it was a really good event, and it got really a lot of engagement across their channel and distribution network. What happened afterwards, they did a big announcement. In the evening, we had some time to be able to make sure that everybody was unboxing, according to our very strict rules. And all the videos were, in compliance with our guidelines. And in the evening, we were able to make an announcement with the adjudicator presenting our certificate to the president of the company in Qingdao. And the way they did the announcement is a very Chinese, just reflects a very Chinese trend at the moment. They did it on their e-commerce channel on Tmall, on their live streaming broadcast channel. So it was live streamed to millions of people, all of their fans. It was live. It was there was a lot of interactions as well, and they did a little bit of a show. There was the smoke, the fireworks, the big presentation, the drama. And it was a really good way for them to kind of, first of all, engage with their network internally, and then actually then have an opportunity to talk about something to the bigger audiences. In terms of the difficulties you were mentioning that we find here in China, of course, Chinese brands love Guinness World Records because we are a foreign brand. We bring like a foreign endorsement. And we say to them, you can be number one. We can endorse their products, their achievements. So they like us for, being foreign in a way. However, one of the difficulties that we found since the beginning of the year is that as we have moved a lot of our records to online, whilst in the West we can use YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and we know how it works. We have great relationships with all these platforms, and we can actually, verify records more easily. There's a lot of mystery around how platforms such as those are run in China. First of all, there's a plethora of them. There's not YouTube and Amazon. There's, hundreds of them. So it's a lot more difficult to have a very kind of close relationship with all of them. And then the content and the censorship that sometimes, has to kind of kick in makes it more challenging for us to know in advance what's going to happen on the day. So this is one difficulty that we've encountered a little bit over the past few months.
So that's really where that local intelligence and that vital on the ground knowledge is important, isn't it? To really, really understand that, understand that, the difference in culture and the capabilities. And so, Julie, I'm just going to move back to you because that's an interesting piece of advice, Marco. I think for anybody, undoubtedly the people will be listening today who are thinking about maybe developing relationships and furthering their business in China. I mean, from your extensive experience, Julie, and all the work you do, I know you do lots and lots of fantastic work in China. I mean, if there was a piece of advice, you talked about trust before, which is really, really powerful and important, and the ability to go out there and meet people. But is there any particular piece of advice you'd also offer to people who might be listening and might be thinking, how do I actually really, really build my relationships and my collaboration with China?
I think it's all about the cultural differences and how you treat that. I think it's not enough just to know there's a difference and to know the word for guanxi and to know what's important, but so we apply a cultural filter or lens to everything. We have our Chinese colleagues involved at every stage, and sometimes we try to work around it thinking, oh, it's just for the West anyway. But it's in every level of business transaction and how we communicate, how you begin a conversation, how you get buy-in for a creative concept, and all of it is building trust. And I would say It's
Yes.
to know that and to take that into. I could talk more, but we don't have time. So I'll stop there.
No, please, no, please. Well, is there one particular example where you've been surprised by that in terms of a cultural difference, where maybe there's a particular case that you could give us?
Yeah. So at the end of that campaign, I was talking about the details. We were
Yeah.
close to delivery, and there was a misunderstanding, and it all went. There was a terrible moment. It was one of those moments that I had to go in and have that kind of conversation. So applying my American or British kind of sensibility to this, you're walking into the room, you're going to get on the call thinking this is it, no matter what happens with this project, the relationship's over. But it's so different, and it's exactly the opposite. What happened was, our Chinese colleague helped me to think about it through their eyes in a different way, which helped me to manage the conversation differently. And the outcome was absolutely just so opposite. We're much stronger for it. There's a Chinese saying, maybe you can help me about. I think it's if you don't have a fight, you can't become friends.
Very good.
So true. And so it's just like we've invested in each other.
Being Irish, I understand that, Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. I love it. And Ken, obviously, you clearly originally from Hong Kong, and you kind of literally, sort of straddle the two kind of cultures. And again, what advice would you be offering? Is it the same as Juliet's? Get out there, really understand the culture. Is there any other particular advice you'd offer to people who are thinking of really, really developing those relationships out there?
Yes, because myself, I'm from Hong Kong, but lived in China for a couple of years. So even for me, it's not that easy because there's still cultural difference because China is massive.
Yes.
Between each province, the culture can be different. So I think just two things I think is the key barriers in my eyes, and just a little bit of advice because it's such a huge topic. I can spend days and nights talk about it nonstop. If you want, we can talk about it afterwards. But just one thing is just to Julie's point, culture is everything. I think everybody knows that it's hugely different. But a piece of advice is that, even a foreigner living in China for like 10 years, they will still come to you saying that we don't truly understand the whole culture. We only know that we should be doing this and that. But my advice on that is truly understand the things, small little things that you know, because you need to truly understand why is it like that and behind it. That's first thing, because it all connects and then it leads you to something, another thing, something different. And important on that is you really need to respect that. Because I've seen a lot of people there. They were just like, yeah, I get it. I know it is, but I disagree. I don't respect that. It wouldn't work. And then the third is you respect and you accept it. That the whole process will help you to understand more, get there, respect, learn. And the second barrier is relevant to culture. I think as an agency, I think in all industry, it's hard to find talent.
Yes.
And, and it's even harder to keep them. And I think the difficulty is in China, there's between China and UK, there's a different understanding of standards and ways of working, let's put it this way. So you think you're both talking about one thing, but actually they're very different.
Right.
So they do something differently. So that relevance to culture, that in order to get good talents, to keep them, but understand, respect them at the same time, it's good to bring what we have in the UK to educate them to understand and improve as well. So that's
brilliant. That's fantastic. And just to to finish, because I think we've got to wrap quite soon. Just coming back to you, Marco. I think that again, we can't really have this conversation without talking about COVID. I mean, clearly we've got to cover it in some way. Now, you are the future. I think you came out of lockdown the day the UK we went into lockdown. You kind of see the future. Is there any advice there that you could give us, in terms of the UK moving out again into China in that collaboration that you've learned from your stages of the crisis?
Yeah, definitely, Stephen. Actually, as you say, I think one good piece of advice would be to try and understand what the different phases of the COVID emergencies are. For us, as you were saying, it started on the 24th of January, And then 2 months later, we started to ease the lockdown. So you kind of know what happens during the lockdown period. People are waiting and see. They don't want to actually commit to anything. It's very sensitive period. It's very difficult to commit, and any kind of communication risks to be misunderstood as an attempt to ride the wave of the humanitarian effort. So it's quite a difficult period to operate. The following phase, however, I call it the progressive easing, which in China lasted from March to April, is where people started to kind of get a bit more confidence. So they wanted to celebrate a bit more. We had some records such as online cheering, online toasting. We had like a sake, a Japanese company doing like a sake tasting lesson for Chinese consumers during this period. And then the last period, which is the one that we're on at the moment, is the recovery. It started officially here in China on the 1st of May. And this is when people started to actually travel domestically across China.
Right.
This is a period where you can see, how clients behave differently. They are more committed, they are less hesitant, and they want to actually re-trigger sales. So, of course, the focus will still be on online stuff. The offline activities are a little bit of a taboo, but we've seen some cases where people have done offline activities, such as Huawei, for example. They did a mosaic using posters on which they print the feedback and suggestions from their own consumers, and they create like a big kind of mosaic. And they use it. It was possible because they did it in a very close and confined room. Only a few people were actually involved in actually making the mosaic, and they did a beautiful film, a beautiful clip out of it, which they used in their online campaign. So, during this period, there is still a lot of online stuff going on, but more confidence. And hopefully we're going to get to the next period, which will be maybe in July for us. And it will be, the new normal when
Yes.
offline activity, tourism will actually start off to, to be the same as before.
That's really, really helpful, and undoubtedly, I'm sure we'll follow a sort of similar pattern. But again, understanding those steps, we can learn a lot. And going back to the points that Can and Julie have made about really, really understanding the culture and the nuances, and having a feeling for that. That understanding those stages is part of that. A part of that respect and that feeling, isn't it? The stages you're going through, the mindset that you're approaching the world through. So that's brilliant. Well, look. It's been fantastic, guys. Thank you so much to Marco, to Julie, to Can. All our details are going to appear at the end of this film, and we'd love to hear from you. We're all obviously here at Creative Tech at CogX. We have a booth, as I was saying earlier on, which we're sharing with the Department of International Trade in the UK, as well as the Shanghai International Advertising Festival. Thanks, guys, for your brilliant insights today. It's really helpful. Hopefully, it demonstrates the UK-China collaboration that we have all developed in our different ways, in our different businesses over the years, and how much we prize it, how it's working, and the learnings from it. UKAEG, I want to thank them as well, and anybody who is listening to us at the moment and wants to listen to us again. Thank you very much. As I say, we are UKAEG. We are basically representing what is the world's leading hub for marketing services and communications in the UK. And we definitely want to hear from you, and anything we can do to help further the collaboration, we would love to do. So thanks very much for listening. Thank you.